Good morning, everyone. We are presenting our group project for HIT 140 Foundation of Data Science. Our investigation is titled Do Bats Perceive Rats as Competitors or Predators? This study was carried out by our group members Krish Khanal, Marina Pokhrel, Girish Sharma Paudel, and Nirjala Paudel. Project context and objectives. Bats and rats often inhabit similar environments such as caves, trees, and even urban areas. Because of this overlap, there is a strong possibility of ecological interaction between two different species. We also examined two main hypotheses. One is resource competitions and another is prediction risks. And in resource competitions, bats and rats may compete for food resources in shared foraging areas, while in prediction risks, larger rats may pose a direct threat to bats, particularly vulnerable individuals such as pups or injured adults. And our central objective was to establish whether bats become more avoidant or display greater vigilance in the presence of rats. This helps us to understand whether bats see rats only as a competitor or also as potential predator.
For this assignment, I was assigned for the inspection and preparation of the data for further visualization and descriptive analysis. To achieve that, I had to thoroughly inspect both the datasets given by our professor. Now, for the inspection part, I did it in Excel because I was expected to check missing values or possible format errors. So, as part of my inspection, these are the listings that I have done. Dataset 1 had 907 rows and 12 columns initially. The column named habit had 41 missing values and a duplicate row was also found. Similarly, the time columns were not in datetime format as they were stored as a string format. As of dataset 2, it had 2123 rows and 7 columns. No missing values and duplicates were found. Just like dataset 1, this set also had time columns stored as string but not as in time format. And additionally, both datasets had consistent numerical columns like risk, reward, month, bat landing to food, and likewise. Now, in order to handle the dirty data, like dropping the number of rows in dataset 1 from 907 to 865 by removing the rows of missing values and changing time columns into datetime format, I wrote a few lines of code which made it a lot easier for us to function. There's a reasoning about why the missing values were not included in further analysis of this assignment in the next slide, but let's first take account into why this cleaning process was essential. So, why cleaning is essential? As we are aware about the GIGO system, which is a concept that states a flawed information or input always produces an output which is flawed or of poor quality. So cleaning was carried to obtain consistent, accurate, and further analysis data. Now comes the reason behind dropping those 41 rows from the dataset 1. I was confused if I should keep them or not, but I took a wise step of taking help from AI. AI suggested me that I should probably drop this data as only near to 4.5% of data would be gone doing so, which is not considered a risk in the field of data analysis. Moreover, it suggested me that this was a clean approach which would ultimately maintain data integrity. Now, this was almost all of my contribution. Thank you.
Hi there, it's Marina Pokhrel. So my part is to describe the descriptive analysis and visualization. So in the slide number 5, I have the seasonal trends and I have two diagrams and the output of mean median as well. So this graph it shows how risk taking and reward levels change across all of the three seasons. We can see that both behaviors are not constant and they rise in some of the seasons and in other seasons they just fall. This suggests that environmental factors they are linked with the seasonal influence how animals balance risk and reward. On the second slide, we have three histograms. The first one is the risk histogram, which shows most animals avoid risks and only a few of them take risks. And the second one, it's a reward histogram, which tells us that rewards are mostly in the lower to the middle range. And the third one is the vigilance histogram, which shows that animals stay alert for different lengths of time, and some of them they react quickly, and some of them they took a lot of time to react as well. This one is rat behavior. It describes the bar chart, which displays how many times each type of behavior the rat has recorded, and each bar is like one habit. For example, which of them are exploring, freezing, grooming, and the height of the bar. It is the number of the times the behavior was observed. So yeah, the bats and rats they are showing dominant behavior patterns at all. So this is the box plot, and the one with the risk takers has higher rewards according to this, and the avoiders have the longer vigilance times. And those who cannot fit in the table, it is mentioned by outliner in the top of that. This simple ring kind of thing on the top of the other one. Yeah, in the vigilance one. Yeah. And the box plot helps to compare groups. Risk takers usually on higher rewards, but avoiders they stay longer. This was a trade-off between reward and vigilance. In the slide, it's pie chart and a bar diagram. Here in the pie chart, we see that the majority of the animals show avoidance, while the same smaller portion take risks. This shows a clear difference between the two behaviors. And in the bar chart, it's on the right, we can see how this changes by the season. There are 3 seasons, and avoidance dominates in most seasons, but risk taking increases in the season with the highest risks. We can also notice the behavior changes depending on the season. Finally, while comparing distributions, it shows a clear trade-off, like risk takers gain more rewards but compromise on vigilance, while avoiders stay safer but on less. So as a result, it suggests that bats see rat more as a predators than competitors. Most bats avoid risks and so higher vigilance, which is more like predator avoidance behavior than competitions. Thank you.
So, for my part of the assignment, I focused on the statistical testing and inferential analysis. The aim here was to move beyond just describing the data and actually test whether the presence of rats had a real effect on bad behavior. I began with hypothesis formulation. My null hypothesis was that rat presence has no effect on bad behavior, while my alternative hypothesis was that rat presence does change bad behavior. To test this, I applied different statistical methods depending on the data type. For continuous measures like vigilance or avoidance scores, I compared group means using t-tests or ANOVA. For categorical data such as the frequency of avoidance responses, I used chi-square tests. The key part of interpreting these results was looking at the p-value. A low p-value, usually below 0.05, indicates statistical significance, which allowed me to reject the null hypothesis and conclude that the patterns I observed were not just due to chance. So this inferential analysis gave me a way to check if the behavioral changes were truly meaningful. From my analysis, I found that bats clearly alter their behavior when rats are present. First, there was a significant increase in avoidance behavior. The bats tended to avoid foraging areas much more when rats were around, most likely because they perceived them as threats or competitors. Second, I noticed an increase in vigilance levels. In the presence of rats, bats scanned more frequently and showed erratic flight patterns, and this change was statistically significant. These behavioral changes were most noticeable during times of high rat activity, even in smaller areas. Interestingly, I did not find any major effect of bat age, so these behavioral shifts occurred regardless of how old the bats were. Overall, my inferential analysis confirmed that rat presence has a measurable and statistically significant effect on bat behavior, particularly in terms of avoidance and vigilance.
Conclusion and acknowledgement. Well, from our study, we found strong evidence that rats do influence bat behavior. In their presence, bats were observed to be more avoidant and more vigilant. This supports the idea that rats are not just competitors for foods but also potential predators that represents a real threat to bats. The significance of this finding is that it reinforces the dual role of rats in bat ecology, and for future directions, we suggest that research could focus on the long term ecological impacts of these interactions and extend the study to other species of bats and rats to determine whether similar patterns are observed. References and acknowledgement. We would like to acknowledge Charles Darwin University for providing the dataset used in this analysis. Our data analysis was conducted using Python libraries including Pandas, NumPy, Matplotlib, and SciPy. Finally, we refer to key works that are Bat Ecology by Coons and Fenton and Rat and People, Rodent Biology and Management by Singleton. Thank you.